I'm Vivian Penner, a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm here to talk to you today about envy and social comparison. Envy is when you realize that somebody else has an advantage that you don't have, and you believe that you need that advantage in order to be happy. Social comparison is when we look at what other people have, or we think that they have, and we judge our own self-worth depending upon them. With social comparison and envy, many times it leads down to depression. And that is because you really believe your self-worth is less because other people's is more. You find yourself hours and hours on social media judging yourself, looking at, comparing, and feeling bad about yourself. You find yourself feeling empty and hollow and less, but don't know what to do to fill it. So you do more of the same, and you're getting the same results. You have no way of boosting your self-worth except by comparing yourself to others. That is a dangerous trap. You also know if your social comparison has gone unchecked, if you are riding the daily roller coaster of emotions. You're up if someone affirms you. Say you get a promotion or your boss says you did a good job, but you have a terrible day if someone ignores you or they don't return your text, and you believe it's all about you. Social comparison and envy can take a hold of our lives in a way that we don't even imagine. We will find ourselves depressed and anxious, fearful, and feeling unworthy before we know it. It has to be addressed.
Hello. My name is Ryan. I'm the student pastor here at Beach Church. And before we get started, two things for you. First of all, if you are a student, if you're a student between 6th and 12th grade, or if you are a parent of a student, I want to encourage you next Sunday is our sign-up deadline for our Epworth Fall Retreat. It's the biggest thing we do all year. If you've been involved at all in our student ministry in the past, I'd encourage you to be there. If you've never done anything at Beach Students, I would encourage you to go. It's the best thing to get involved with and to meet people and to grow closer to life group leaders and other people in the ministry, other teenagers. So I would highly encourage you sign up. It's November 9th through 11th. And once again, the sign up deadline is next Sunday. Second thing is my wife is pregnant, so that's cool. And we are having our second child in March. So that's exciting. And on to the sermon. We are in week 3 of You're Not the Boss of Me, where we are looking at the emotions, the feelings, the things that go on in our heart that have the tendency to take over our lives, that have the tendency to take over our attitudes, our actions, our words, and all of that. And before we get into what we're talking about today, I want you to all close your eyes. Close your eyes. We're going to do a little mental and emotional exercise together. I want you to picture your home. Think about the inside, the outside. Maybe it's an apartment, maybe it's a townhouse, maybe it's a house, big, small, whatever. Picture your home. Now I want you to picture your car. What kind of car is it? What color is it? Is it 2019 or a 1983? Does it run? Do you have air conditioning? Think about your car. I want you to think about your family. The people who you live in a home with. Maybe it's your siblings and your parents if you're younger. Maybe it's your spouse and your kids. Maybe you live with roommates. Think about the people that you live with, the people that you're close to. Maybe we extend that a little bit. Let's think about our best friends. Kind of picture them in your head. Maybe you're dating someone. You can picture your boyfriend or your girlfriend in your head. Picture those people that are close to you, that are important to you. Last thing I want you to picture is your job. Where do you work? What's the building look like? You work inside, outside? What do you do? And then I want you to think of a number. And that number is a specific number. I want you to think about the number that represents the amount of money you make in a year, or the amount of money that you make per hour. And keep your eyes closed. After thinking about all those things, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with your life? You don't have to tell anybody, just keep that number in your head. How satisfied are you with your life? All right, let's open our eyes. I want to show you a few pictures and tell you about a few places and people. The first thing I want to tell you about is a home in Bel Air, Los Angeles, California. And this home has a name. If you have a name for your home, you kind of know it's a pretty big home. But it's called the Billionaire. Literally, that's the name of a house. Let me tell you about this home. It's 38,000 square feet inside, over 4 levels. Features 12 bedrooms, but they're really not bedrooms. They're all suites. There's 2 master suites and 10 VIP suites. If you have VIP suites in your home, you're doing something. 21 bathrooms, 5 bars. Some of y'all are going to amen in church for the first time ever. 5 bars, 3 gourmet kitchens, 3 dining areas, a state-of-the-art gym, a wellness spa, a 4-lane bowling alley, a 360-inch TV, likely the largest residential TV in the world, a 40-seat theater with a 22-foot screen, 57 speakers, a 4K projector, and 7,000 preloaded movies, a 17,000 square feet of outdoor deck space, $2 million outdoor hydraulic retractable theater screen measuring 18 feet by 12 feet that you can watch as you sit out at the pool and look over the Los Angeles skyline. An 85-foot glass tile infinity pool with a swim-up bar, 2 fully stocked wine cellars, 2 commercial elevators lined in alligator skin for some unknown reason, $2 million polished steel staircase, a $200,000 wall of candy dispensers because if you're that rich, you need candy, and a 7-person full-time staff with separate living quarters. There's the home. It also comes with a $30 million car collection. So, yeah. Now let me tell you about some jobs. There's a job that was posted a few years ago in Australia, and it was a job known as an island caretaker. An island caretaker. This job is a 6-month temporary job. It is staying on a private island with clear water on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And your job is to take pictures and post blogs about how awesome your life is. You have a private home, 3 bedrooms for 1 person, and you have a swimming pool, but you really don't need a swimming pool because you live right on the ocean. And for these 6 months, you don't pay anything. You get paid $150,000. That sounds like a nice job. You ever heard of a flavor guru? Flavor guru? This is an official job for Ben & Jerry's. They make up ice cream flavors and they taste them. And they get paid a salary for that. A flavor guru, that's a career, that's a job. There's another job I want to tell you about. It's called a water slide tester, and you may think I'm making this up. A water slide tester is a real thing. A water slide tester gets paid to skip you and your screaming children that you paid to get there, and they skip you, and then they ride down the water slide and then fill out some paperwork about how the water slide rated, and they too get paid a salary to do this. Not hourly, they get paid a salary. Let me tell you one more thing. Nick Foles, the Jaguars' starting quarterback when healthy, is being paid $31 million this year. He's played 10 snaps, something like that. $31 million this year, whether or not he plays another snap the rest of the year. Let me tell you about a family. A family. If you're a girl that's between the ages of like 20 or 30 and you're on Instagram, you've probably heard of this family. That's the only reason I know about this family from my wife. And this family is known as the Bucket List family. Anybody ever heard of the Bucket List family? All right. So the Bucket List family, Garrett and Jessica and their 3 children. Here is their life. Their life is that they are on permanent vacation. Their life is that they are on permanent vacation. They sold all their stuff a few years back and they started traveling and they went all around the world. They go to the coolest, most luxurious, most hard to reach spots on earth and experience some of the most amazing things you could experience. I saw this picture of them. They went on like a 12-day sailboat ride thing and they were just like swimming with either humpback whales or blue whales, like insane. They're like right above the, it's insane. And they no longer pay for any of this. They get it all for free because they have become what you might call traveling advertisers or something like that. And essentially they will get paid up to $8,000 for an Instagram post. They'll get paid up to $20,000 for a YouTube post. They will stay in hotels for free, go to the best restaurants for free, get free gear, free stuff, free everything, and then they get paid on top of it large amounts of money because they're in partnerships with Airbnb and GoPro and multiple hotels and restaurants. And that is their life. Now, I ask you a question. How satisfied are you with your life? How satisfied are you with your life? Envy. Envy is a feeling of discontent and longing for what belongs to someone else. Envy is a feeling of discontent and longing for what belongs to someone else. Envy is the feeling I feel when I look at any other college football team in America. Envy is the feeling that I feel when I look at Wake Forest football program. It's a sad state to be in, but that's how I feel. I feel a longing, a discontent for sure, because what I have as a Florida State graduate is not what I want. So I envy. I compare. I have discontent. The Bible calls it coveting. It's one of the original 10 commandments. I want to read to you a verse out of Proverbs, which is an Old Testament book of wisdom and sayings, really for all areas of life. Proverbs 14, verse 30, it says this: a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. Envy rots the bones. There's another translation that says envy is a cancer in your bones. It works from the inside out. And the key to ruining your life, if you want to know how to ruin your life, the key to ruining your life is to let envy be the boss of you. To let envy be the boss of you. James, we talked about James last week. James, the half-brother of Jesus. He had the same mama, different daddy. And he wrote a book called the Book of James. And in the book of James, he speaks about envy. And here's what he calls envy. He says, when you find envy, you will find disorder. And you will find all kinds of evil. Because here's the thing, like when we envy, it will lead us to do all kinds of evil. Envy will lead us to say things we shouldn't say, to spend money we shouldn't spend, to do things to people we shouldn't do, to cheat, lie, steal, do whatever it takes to fulfill that feeling of longing and discontent in our heart. In fact, the root word for the Greek word that he uses for envy has this idea of boiling water. He's basically saying like envy gets you heated, like it gets you feeling like I don't have enough. And from the inside, you are just boiling because of what you don't have. There's an interesting little note. Matthew and Mark, in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, they both record the same thing about Jesus' crucifixion. They say that Pilate, the Roman governor who ended up putting Jesus to death, Pilate looked at the leaders of the church, or the leaders of the synagogue, and he looked at the priests, and he looked at the Pharisees who were trying to get Jesus killed, and he realized that envy was the reason that they wanted to kill Jesus. That was it. They looked at Jesus and they said, he has the crowds we want. He's getting the attention we should be getting. The people follow him, not us. We're losing our power. And because they were envious and discontent with what they had, they felt they had to get rid of Jesus. And even this Roman governor could see it in them. It was obvious. Envy is a feeling and an emotion that is very, very apparent to the people around us. C.S. Lewis, the famous Christian writer, says this: envy is insatiable. The more you concede to it, or the more you give into it, the more it will demand. And so when we give into our envy, we just want more. It's like a never-ending thing. It would be as if you were to eat a meal and you don't get full. And then you eat more and more and more and more, and you could never feel satisfied. You could never feel content. You could never feel like I am good. You just constantly want more and more and more. And we see envy throughout our lives, don't we? We see envy as a child. And if you're a parent, you see it in your child. When they walk up to another 2 or 3-year-old and they push them down and they take their toy, or they take their snack, or they take their doll. It's not as if they need that thing. It's just that they see someone else with it and they want it. Just this past Saturday, my daughter who's 2 and her cousin who's 4 were fighting over a dollar store toy. They didn't know, like literally, they never knew that toy existed. They didn't want it, they didn't desire it, they didn't look it up on Amazon, they didn't research it. It just appeared from a friend who gave it to them. And all of a sudden, I came out from the other room and they're in there just screaming and fighting, and tears are flowing. Why? Because they are envious. They had something or they saw something that they wanted and then they couldn't have it, and so they were longing after it. They had a feeling of discontent. They felt like, if I don't get that $1 toy, my life is going to be over. And we think, oh, cute little kids, you know? But we get older and the toys change, don't they? We start to envy after cars. We start to envy after clothes. We start to envy after people's place in life. We'll envy after things that aren't really things. We'll envy after people. We'll envy over the fact that someone else has a romantic relationship that we don't have. And we think, well, I deserve that boyfriend or girlfriend. I should have been married by now. I should have had a fiance. I'm going to everybody else's wedding. But I don't have what I desire. We start to envy over achievements, over what other people do. You know you're envious when you look at someone else's success and it makes you angry. Envy changes, it kind of morphs as we get older. And then when you grow from being a teen and a young adult into maybe middle age, then the envy comes over careers, comes over jobs, and it comes over salary. In fact, studies show that at a certain point in your life, you kind of start decreasing in your envy in general. But the one thing that continues to increase until the day we die is our envy over money. Our envy over the money and the resources that other people have, the salaries that other people make. And here's what envy does. And here's what envy is. Envy is the enemy of happiness and of being content. Envy is the enemy of happiness and of being content. It takes whatever you have and it makes it lesser. What you have, you might like until you see someone else with more or something different, and then you realize, I don't really like my car anymore. I don't really like my boat anymore. I don't really like my home anymore. I did like it until I saw theirs. And now it's just okay. You know, I'm just waiting to get something better. I want to look at something in the Old Testament, a story in the Old Testament of 2 men. 1 Samuel chapter 18. 1 Samuel chapter 18. And in this story is a man named David. Actually, he's not even a man at this point. He's a teenager. He's a young guy who was a nobody shepherd boy, the youngest in his family, but he's just had a kind of 15 minutes of fame scenario where he has killed a giant known as Goliath. Many of you, even if you haven't grown up in church, have probably heard this story because we hear David and Goliath. We even hear it in sports and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a grown man named King Saul. King Saul is the first king of Israel. He is said in the scripture accounts to be good looking, taller than everybody else. Everything about him says king in appearance. But Saul had a problem with envy. He had a problem with envy. And so I want to pick up in verse 18, chapter 18, verse 6. Chapter 18, verse 6. It says, when the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, that is Goliath, the women came out from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul. They came to meet King Saul, not David. They came to meet King Saul with singing and dancing, with joyful songs and timbrels and lyres. As they danced, they sang. It's like a musical. They just all know the words. And Saul has slain his thousands. To which Saul is like, yes, I have. Yes, I'm getting the attention I deserve. But then the next verse upset him greatly. The next part of the song says, and David, his tens of thousands. Saul has slain his thousands. David, his tens of thousands. Let me start with this. The lyrics they were singing, the song they were singing was not even true. David had killed one person. Saul knew this. David was a little kid. He was a nobody. He wasn't a warrior yet. And so Saul hears these lyrics that he knows are not true, and yet envy starts to take its hold in him. It becomes the boss of him. It says Saul was very angry. This refrain displeased him greatly. And so he starts thinking to himself, which is what we do when we envy, right? What we do when we compare. He says, they have credited David with tens of thousands, he thought, but me with only thousands. And look at this next thought. Look at where his mind and his heart jump. What more can he get but the kingdom? Where did that even come from, Saul? He's 15. He's just a kid. He killed one guy. Like he is not going to take your throne, although he would, so I guess he was scared for the right reason. But at this point, he wasn't going to take his throne. He was not a threat. But he looks at him as a threat. Why? Because he envied. Envy took over his heart, and he went from being the king to feeling like, oh my gosh, this teenager's going to take my kingdom. David didn't want the kingdom. David was just a kid, but he feels like David's going to take the kingdom and take what's his. Why? Because of envy, because of comparison, because he's looking at David and saying, he's going to take something that's mine, that I deserve, that I want. And all it took was a song by a few girls running down the street during a parade for him to lose his grip on reality. Look at verse 9. And from that time on, Saul kept a close eye on David. And this would be the beginning of a long, tumultuous relationship and situation between these two. Why? Because Saul was envious. And that's what envy does, right? We start to keep a close eye on other people. We feel envious, and so we start to notice what our neighbor has, what our coworker has, what our sibling has, what our friend has. And it just sticks out to us. Every little thing. Oh, wow, they got a new car. Oh, wow, they got married. Oh, wow, their kids are doing this, or they went on this vacation. And we just start to envy more and more. We start to notice more and more. And the thing that leads to envy a lot of times is our comparisons. And we compare everything, don't we? We compare houses, we compare cars, we compare clothes, we compare appearances, we compare families, we compare our kids' achievements and our kids' grades. We compare our meals. Like you could have a meal that you're very happy with, and then you see what someone else ate, and you're like, honey, this meal wasn't good enough. I mean, it was good 2 minutes ago, but I just saw Dave had steak tonight. And look at me, my meal stinks because it's not as good as his. No, you were happy with it a second ago. But we compare. We'll compare vacations. You get home from a vacation you saved up for years, and you're so excited about it, and you feel so fulfilled, and then you get home and you see your friends going to Europe, and you're like, honey, all we did was go to the west coast of Florida. Man, this stinks. Like, our life is terrible. We should be going to Europe. We should have that vacation. And we compare every single thing. And we all know it's even worse in 2019 than ever before because of social media, internet, TV, and movies. Because there was a time, even 50 or 60 years ago, where if you were poor, you had no idea how rich people lived. No idea. You didn't go in their homes. You didn't see the inside of their homes. They lived on these huge estates where the home was half a mile back from the road. Nobody got close to them, right? Nobody saw their cars. You couldn't just go to a car dealership and test drive some expensive car. They'd look at you and like, you can't afford this, kid. You need to go away. And you couldn't even have access to what other people had. All you could do was compare yourself to your neighbors, your family, the people who you could see day to day. But now we can compare ourselves with anybody. We got 23-year-old college graduates and they're comparing themselves to Kanye West. It's an unfair comparison. He's twice as old as you. He's highly successful. He's famous. He has some skill set that a lot of people don't have. And so he has gotten to a certain place. It's not fair for us to compare ourselves in these situations. It's not like we're comparing even terms. We're comparing ourselves with people that are so far and away from our place in life. Why? Because of the internet, because of TV, because of movies. We see things and we want them and we envy after them. And we compare ourselves. We make unfair comparisons. We can see how other people live. We can go on YouTube and see these amazing homes or amazing vacations or amazing restaurants. And it's so easy for us to sit there and envy and think, look what they have. Not what does your friend have, not what does your neighbor have, but what does some random person that you don't even know on the other side of the country or the other side of the planet have? Or what's in some imaginary movie and that's the life that you want. We compare. Man, I love HGTV, but you might as well call it Envy TV. Like that's all that it is. Literally, nobody is happy after watching HGTV. Nobody. Honey, we need a pallet wall. We're going home. Honey, we're in financial peace and we're $15,000 a day. I don't care. We're building a wall in our living room out of wood because I saw it. I saw it on what's the Joanna, Chip? Yeah, Chip and Joanna, they did it. I wonder if we could go to Waco, Texas and just run into them. Maybe they'll put us on their show. Like we just get envious. We watch these shows. Oh my gosh, 5,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet. This is amazing. Man, their budget's huge. My budget's so low. They're 22. How's their budget? $1.1 million. Like, I don't understand this. And we just get envious, right? And we get discontent with what we have, right? That's what we do. We see these things, we compare ourselves, and then we don't like what we have. We don't like where we come in the comparison. And here's the thing about comparison. It can actually work both ways. Comparison will make you feel inferior or superior, and either way, you will be wrong. It'll make you feel inferior because you will compare yourself to people who have more or are more talented in some way or are part of life. And you will look at them and you'll say, I'm not as good as them. I have lower worth than them because they have A, B, and C. Or you will look at someone that has less than you. Someone who has less money, has an older car, has an older home, whose family doesn't seem as well put together as you. And you'll look at them and say, oh, poor them. Look how much better I'm. And it will puff you up with a false sense of pride. And the reality is you'll either find yourself feeling inferior or superior. Either way, you'll be wrong because they're another human being. They're equal to you. We're looking at these exterior things and trying to act like they give us intrinsic value, but they don't. They don't. They're just things. It's just stuff. And besides, we don't even know, we don't know their situation. Everything can look happy on their highlight reel and it isn't on the inside. Maybe they're 20 years older than you. That's why they have more money. Maybe they have more money, but they're lacking in some other areas of their life. Like we don't even know. Maybe they're in crazy amounts of debt, and we think, oh, look at their amazing life. But they're like, oh my gosh, I'm sinking. Like we don't even know what our comparison really is, and yet we do it. We puff ourselves up or we beat ourselves down based on comparison. I want to look at one other story from Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 15, really the most famous parable Jesus ever told. But we're going to skip forward, we're going to fast forward, and it's known as the prodigal son. You've probably heard it a million times, but if you haven't, basically there's these two kids, and they have a dad, and they have at least a decent amount of money, and the younger son, who at the time this was written, a younger child would not get the inheritance. A younger child may get nothing. The older son was the one that got everything. The younger child goes to his father and says, hey, I want my inheritance. I want my piece of the pie. I know you're not dead, but I want to act like you're dead, and I want your stuff. And he takes the money, and he goes and he lives wildly, and he wastes all the money. He finds himself living as a servant feeding pigs, which was an unclean animal, which would have been just a terrible thing for a Jewish boy, place for a Jewish boy to find himself. And he realizes, I was better off if I was at home as a servant to my dad. My servants growing up were in a better place than I am right now. And so he says, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna apologize, and I'm just going to beg to become a servant. Maybe my dad will let me back in as a servant. So he goes home and he gives this pitiful, begging sob story, really. And I want to pick up after that sob story, verse 22. And I want to look at what this has to say about envy, comparison, and even some ways we can deal with envy and comparison. The father said to his servants, quick, this is right after the sob story, quick, bring the best robe, put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine, who I thought was dead, is alive again. I thought he was lost. I didn't think I'd ever see him again. I couldn't keep up with him on social media. We don't have social media. I just thought he was gone. I'd never see him again. But he's found. And so they begin to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. The older son's out working. He never left home. He did what he was supposed to do. He stuck it out. And he comes near the house, and it says that he heard music and dancing. He hears a party going on. He doesn't go in. He calls one of the servants to him, and he asks him what was going on. And the servant says, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. Imagine this servant's like, he's back. He's back after all these years. Your brother's still alive. To which the brother said, yes, he's home. Yes, I'm so excited. I've been thinking about him. I've been praying for him. I'm so glad he's home. I'm so glad he's okay. No, that's not what he does. The older brother became angry and he refused to go in. I want you to remember, this isn't a teenager. It's a grown man. No, I ain't going in there. No, I'm too angry. I'm too angry at him. He should have never left. And he took all that money and he wasted it. And the comparisons start to come up and well up, and the envy starts to well up in his heart. He's so angry he won't even go in. And so his father, who has just received a son back, his father is so excited. His father is going to do anything for this son that is alive again. His father has to leave the party and go deal with his 25, 35, 40-year-old son. And he went out and he pleaded with him. A dishonorable thing for a father to do to a son in this culture. Pleaded and begged his son to come on, it's your brother, please, buddy, just come on in, it's gonna be great. But he answered his father, look, exclamation point, look here, Dad. And it's like he's yelling at his dad. He's gonna tell his dad what's going on. All these years, I've been slaving for you. We get a sense of really the way he looks at his father just in that line. I've been slaving for you. This is a contract. This is an agreement. I've been slaving for you. And you, and then he says this, I've never disobeyed your orders. Yeah, okay. I've never disobeyed I didn't do one thing wrong. I always clean my room. And then listen to this. Again, we're talking about a man here. Yet you never even gave me a young goat, Daddy. Not even a young goat. Dad, all I wanted was a young goat. That's it. All I wanted was a young goat. And you never even gave me one so I could celebrate with my friends. What is he, 12 years old? Dad, you never even got me an Xbox. I listened to all your rules. I did all the chores. He's full of envy. He's full of comparison. Here comes the comparison. But when this son of yours, he won't even call him his brother. This son of yours, he won't use his name. This son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home. You kill the fattened calf for him? This is envy. I didn't get what I deserved. I was good. I should have gotten this. He was bad. He should have gotten this. But the roles are switched, and he's getting something he did not deserve. Look at what the father says. My son, you were always with me. You were always with me. In other words, you didn't have to go build a life of regrets. You didn't have to go do a bunch of things that you are sickened by. You didn't have to live those terrible experiences. You didn't have to find yourself as a slave feeding pigs. You were home. You were in your bed. You had structure. You had love. You had companionship. You had me, the father says. And he says, and everything I have is yours. It was never not yours to begin with. You didn't need an inheritance because it's already yours. I've given it all to you. But we have to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. Here's something we see about this son. He doesn't trust his dad. He doesn't think his dad has his best interest in mind. And if you've been around church for a while, you may know all parables are symbolic of something else. Father's God, and we could be either of the two sons, although a lot of times we kind of relate to the prodigal son. Oh, we ran away and God gave us grace. Yes. But so often we are the older son. And we don't trust. And so two antidotes, two cures to envy are the following. One is trust God. Trust God. We see a son who did not trust his father. And because he did not trust his father, he assumed he was getting the short end of the stick. He assumed my dad doesn't know what is going on and he's not giving me what I deserve. This is what we do when we envy and we compare. We're looking around and we say, God's not treating me right. God doesn't know what he's doing. I've been far more faithful than that person and I'm getting less. What's God doing? I've asked for this and God hasn't given it to me. He said no, or he said wait. What is God doing? And we lack trust. And because we lack trust, we find ourselves envious of what other people have. And comparing and contrasting. And when am I gonna get that? When is God gonna give me that? And when am I gonna get that relationship? Or when am I gonna have a child? Or when am I gonna get a home? Or when am I gonna get a promotion? Or when am I going to